Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with Charm Stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also generously hit the like button cause it means the world to us. Please sit back, relax and enjoy as we dive into the story. Eva Morgan stared at the divorce papers on the scratched, wooden table that she used to love. It was a piece she'd once picked out in an upscale boutique in downtown Phoenix, during a time when her entrepreneurial success had soared. Now, it served as little more than a reminder of how drastically her life had changed. Her legal name, Eva E. Morgan, was printed neatly in black ink on the top line. Right below were the formal words that legally ended her 5-year marriage. Those words felt so cold, so final. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling around the pen. After all the arguments, cheating, and heartbreak, it ended not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a signature. The thought of signing filled her with a tumult of emotions. On one hand, divorce was her path to freedom from a toxic marriage. On the other, it symbolized failure. Failing at love, failing at partnership, failing to protect her business from Alex, her soon-to-be ex-husband. When they first met, Alex had seemed like the perfect partner. He was confident, resourceful, and knew exactly how to support her ambitious nature. But that facade cracked when she discovered his affair with one of her business associates. Then came the revelation that he had siphoned money from her business accounts, leaving her buried in debts she never incurred. A tear slipped down her cheek and smudged the ink on the paper. Alex had stolen far more than money. He had taken her trust, her self-worth, and her confidence in navigating relationships. It took Eva a long moment to finally steel herself. She placed the pen to the line that bore her name, scrawled her signature, and felt a hollow relief in the pit of her stomach. The attorney's office was a bland, dimly lit room with shelves crammed full of legal textbooks and files. The moment she handed back the signed document, the attorney gave her a sympathetic nod. "I'm sorry it had to end this way, Ms. Morgan," he said in a hushed tone. She shrugged, fighting tears. Better it ends now than drag this misery on. Minutes later, Eva found herself on the city sidewalk, the midday sun blinding her puffy eyes. She could still feel the vibrations of her racing heart in her chest. She walked briskly, her mind churning with the reality of being free, yet penniless. 5 years spent believing in a dream that turned into a nightmare. She made her way to her tiny one-bedroom apartment, a stark contrast to the modern loft she and Alex once shared. The living space smelled faintly of stale coffee and overripe bananas. She had moved in a month ago, after discovering the extent of Alex's financial betrayal. The walls were bare, she could barely afford rent, much less any decorative touches. Eva dropped her purse on the worn-out couch and slid to the floor, leaning back against the cushions. Her phone buzzed. A final text from Alex, or so she hoped. "Alex, I'll send for the rest of my things when I can. Don't contact me." She stared at it for a moment, feeling anger, sadness, and something akin to relief swirl inside her. She locked the screen, exhaled, and told herself it was time to move on. But how? Every last penny of her business funds was gone, and she was saddled with the debt Alex had accrued in her name. Investors who once adored her had distanced themselves the moment the scandal broke. That afternoon, she thumbed through a stack of overdue bills, her vision blurring with tears. She caught sight of a bank statement confirming her account was in the negative. The phone rang, and she didn't even bother answering it. It was likely another creditor demanding money she didn't have. The weight of her heartbreak and financial ruin pressed down on her. Leaning her head back, she swallowed the sob that threatened to erupt. If she could escape for a few hours, would that make it easier? Would any temporary bandage truly mask this gaping wound? The final straw came when she saw the letter from the bank threatening to seize the only asset left in her name, her battered old car, if she failed to meet her payments. A wave of anger surged through her. How could Alex do this to her? Once, they had been a team. Now, all she had left was a broken business, a broken heart, and a stack of final notices. Eva scanned her apartment, the peeling wallpaper, the flickering light above the kitchenette, and the half-unpacked boxes. This was her new reality. What had happened to the Eva who once ran a successful fitness tech startup with a bright, unstoppable vision? She needed to get that woman back, somehow, yet at this very moment, all she wanted was to drown out the pain and forget. She decided that if there was ever a time to lose herself in a drink, it was now. Some small part of her brain warned that this wouldn't solve anything. But desperation and sorrow spoke louder. She fumbled around for her wallet, counting the few bills she had left. Enough for a night out? Probably not one at the high-end bar she used to frequent. But who was she kidding? A cheap dive wouldn't cut it. She wanted oblivion wrapped in glamour, if only for a few fleeting hours. Her phone chimed again, another payment reminder. Eva pressed her eyes shut, took a shaky breath, and stood up. She wiped the tears with the back of her hand, squared her shoulders, and marched to her closet, rummaging through clothes for something remotely stylish. Finding a black cocktail dress that still fit her well, she laid it on the bed. Her reflection in the mirror caught her attention. The woman staring back looked haunted, with dark circles under puffy eyes. She applied heavy concealer, dark lipstick, and pinned back her curly brown hair, trying to recreate the poised, commanding aura she used to have. Deep down, she suspected one night wouldn't fix the swirling storm in her life. But she needed something, anything, to help her forget, even if it was for just a few hours. When she finally stepped out the door, the sky was a deep lavender, the city lights just beginning to flicker. This was it, the end of her old life and the start of a new one. But first, she had a date with rock bottom. The sign above the bar glowed in neon purple, reading Venetian Dreams. Once upon a time, Eva's company had sponsored a high-profile launch party at an even more lavish place. She felt a pang of nostalgia but pushed it away. Venetian Dreams was out of her current price range, but none of that mattered tonight. If she was going to chase oblivion, she wanted to do it in style. As she stepped inside, a wave of cool air and the smell of expensive perfumes washed over her. Crystal chandeliers glinted overhead, and a gentle hum of conversation filled the space. The marble floor looked immaculate, and the bar itself shone with mirrored panels and sleek black countertops. Beautifully dressed patrons crowded around, sipping signature cocktails. Eva chose a high-backed stool, letting her dress drape elegantly. She set her small clutch down and tried not to think about the cost of these drinks. The bartender, a tall, dark-haired man with a perfectly groomed beard, greeted her. "What'll it be?" he asked, drying a cocktail glass. She cast a quick glance at the menu, scanning the prices. She fought a grimace. Each drink cost more than she had spent on groceries all week. But she forced a carefree tone. "I'll start with a Manhattan. Make it strong." He nodded. "Coming right up." She exhaled. Maybe she needed to pace herself. After all, money was scarce. Still, once the amber liquid touched her tongue, a warm flush spread through her body. She sipped slowly, letting the alcohol calm her frayed nerves. At first, she alternated between scanning the crowd and staring at her reflection in the mirror behind the bar. Each sip felt like a tiny release from the suffocating weight of her reality. After finishing the first drink, she ordered another, this time, a whiskey sour with extra bourbon. The bartender obliged without question. The second drink went down faster than the first, and she felt her tensions ease into a hazy languor. A group of loud partygoers crowded next to her. 2 women and 3 men were laughing loudly. One woman, wearing a glittering silver dress, glanced at Eva. "Hey there, alone tonight?" the woman asked. Eva offered a half-smile, slurring slightly. "Yeah, just celebrating freedom." She choked on the last word, trying to make it sound like a good thing. The woman, slightly tipsy herself, raised her glass. "Cheers to freedom, though it looks like it might be bittersweet." "It is," Eva admitted, her lip trembling. She swallowed hard and forced a grin. "But I'm determined to get through it." "Well, if you need a friend tonight, we're here." The woman introduced herself as Talia and pointed to her companions, rattling off names that Eva promptly forgot in her stupor. They toasted, downing their drinks in unison. One of the men offered to buy Eva another round, but she politely declined, worried about what remained in her wallet. Talia persisted, waving off Eva's concern. "Don't worry about it," Talia said. "We're celebrating life, love, or the lack of it. Let's just have fun tonight, okay?" Despite herself, Eva felt comforted by the stranger's inclusion. She nodded, her eyes watering, though she wasn't sure if it was relief or the alcohol. Soon, more drinks followed, courtesy of Talia's cheerful generosity. The lights, the conversation, and the swirling haze of music and laughter enveloped Eva. She found herself giggling at jokes that, in her sober mind, she might not even find funny. As the hours passed, she lost track of how many drinks she had consumed. The last clear memory she had was Talia and the others moving toward the dance floor. Eva tried to follow, stumbling in her high heels, nearly colliding with a cocktail waitress. She giggled, apologizing, though the apology slurred out. She realized she hadn't eaten dinner, just a rushed lunch of instant noodles. The drinks churned in her empty stomach, intensifying her light-headedness. The bar's bright lights and the swirl of music and voices became disorienting. She swayed, steadying herself on a nearby stool, only to feel her vision blur. A wave of nausea and exhaustion hit her. She felt the floor tilt, or was it her body tipping? She tried to keep her eyes open, but the darkness threatened to swallow her. She heard distant voices, urgent but muffled, as if underwater. Voice: "Ma'am, are you all right?" Another voice: "She's gonna pass out. Someone catch her." But Eva was too far gone to respond. The last thing she remembered was the cold tile beneath her knees as she half collapsed, the world spinning so violently she couldn't tell up from down. Then everything faded to black. Her final, drowsy thought: "At least I won't feel the pain while unconscious." A sharp beam of morning light pierced through Eva's eyelids, jolting her awake. Her head felt like it was stuffed with cotton, and a dull ache throbbed behind her temples. She squinted against the light, trying to figure out where she was. This was not her cramped apartment. She was in a massive bed draped with silk sheets, soft as a cloud against her skin. The ceiling loomed high above, crowned with an ornate chandelier made of crystals that refracted sunlight into tiny rainbows dancing on the walls. Polished wood floors stretched out in every direction, partially covered by an expensive-looking Persian rug. A mild panic set in. How had she ended up here? She sat up, the room spinning, and surveyed her surroundings. There was a stunning view through the floor-to-ceiling windows, gardens, lush greenery, and in the distance, what looked like a sculpture-lined courtyard. The decor was modern yet old-world, blending sleek, contemporary lines with vintage accents. Everything about this place screamed wealth. Her mouth tasted like stale liquor, and her head pounded. The clock on the wall read 10:47 a.m. She couldn't imagine how she had slept so long. Had she been drugged? Kidnapped? The possibilities made her stomach churn with fear. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Eva froze, heart hammering in her chest. Before she could utter a word, the door swung open, revealing a tall man. He wore a crisp black suit and had neatly styled dark hair. His eyes were a piercing gray, giving him an imposing aura that immediately dominated the space. He said nothing for a moment, simply studying her, as if assessing the situation. Finally, he spoke in a low, calm voice. "I'm Liam Carter. Are you feeling any better this morning?" Eva swallowed hard, trying to conjure up some form of composure. My head is killing me," she admitted. "Where am I?" "You're at my home," he replied matter-of-factly. "More specifically, you're in the guest room of my estate. I found you unconscious near the alley outside my private club last night. You were quite intoxicated." Her cheeks burned with humiliation. "Oh God," she muttered, pressing her hands to her face. "I'm so sorry. I must have had too much to drink. I don't even remember leaving the bar." Liam nodded, his expression impassive. "You stumbled out of the club and collapsed. I couldn't in good conscience leave you there. So, I brought you here. The staff and I made sure you were okay." Eva looked around, her mortification growing by the second. So he was some wealthy Good Samaritan? She tried to piece together the fragments of last night, but everything after a certain point was a blur. "Thank you," she managed. I appreciate your kindness. I really do." He inclined his head. "You're welcome. I'd suggest you see a doctor, but it seems you just need rest and hydration. You're free to stay until you feel well enough to leave." She glanced at him, confused by his politeness and formality. "That's very generous. I'm sorry to have been such a burden." I'll get out of here as soon as possible. A flicker of something, sympathy or curiosity, crossed Liam's features. There's no rush. I have a chef who can prepare something light for you. Perhaps some toast or scrambled eggs to settle your stomach. Dehydration is common after a night of heavy drinking. His tone was clinical, almost detached. Still, the offer of food stirred Eva's hunger. Her stomach growled at the mention of eggs. She nodded, feeling another wave of embarrassment. Yes, thank you. That would be nice. He inclined his head again and stepped back. I'll have someone bring a tray shortly. In the meantime, the bathroom is through that door if you need a shower. There's a robe inside. Your clothes are on the chair. My staff laundered them for you. But wear the robe if you prefer. I'm sure you'll want to freshen up. With that, he turned and left, closing the door gently behind him. Eva let out a shuddering breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The man was a complete enigma, courteous but aloof, commanding yet seemingly unintrusive. She slid out of bed, her legs still unsteady. Padding across the room, she found the plush robe hanging in the bathroom. The bathroom itself was enormous, larger than her entire apartment's living room, with a rainfall shower, marble countertops, and gold fixtures. As she stepped under the warm water, she tried to recall any mention of Liam Carter in her previous business circles. The name sounded familiar, some rumored tech prodigy who'd kept a low public profile. When she emerged, wrapped in the robe, she found a tray waiting on the bedside table. Toast, scrambled eggs, a small bowl of fruit, and a glass of water. She sank onto the bed and ate slowly, the warm food soothing her hungover body. It tasted divine, probably because it was prepared by a professional chef, but also because she was starving. Her mind spun, uncertain how to navigate this bizarre situation. Why would a billionaire personally help a random drunk woman? She expected a quick handoff to a cab or even the police, not an invitation into his mansion. Was there a catch? By the time she finished eating, her headache dulled slightly, and she felt a semblance of clarity returning. She dressed in her now clean clothes, thankfully still her own, and ventured out of the room. The hallway was lined with modern paintings and sculptures. She followed the sound of hushed voices, eventually emerging into a spacious living area that opened onto a grand marble staircase. Liam stood by a window, talking quietly on his phone. He ended the call when he noticed Eva, slipping the device into his pocket. "Feeling better?" he asked. She nodded. "Much. Thank you again for, well, everything. I'm sure I've messed up your routine." "There's no need to apologize," he said coolly. "I rarely have visitors, but I believe in helping someone in need." Eva shifted, feeling the tension. She studied him briefly, tall, impeccably groomed, posture straight as an arrow. Yet there was a heaviness in his eyes that suggested he carried unspoken burdens. "I'm Eva, by the way. Eva Morgan. I guess you already know that from my ID or something." He nodded. "Yes, I found your ID in your purse. Don't worry, your belongings are intact. They're on the table over there." She followed his gesture to a gleaming wooden console table where her purse sat. Quickly, she checked the contents. Everything, including her phone, was still there. Relief washed over her. "So, Liam," she began, clearing her throat. "I really appreciate your help, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. I can call a taxi or something." "It's quite a distance from the city," he said. "My driver can take you whenever you're ready." She looked out the window, noticing for the first time how far the estate sprawled. Manicured lawns, ornamental shrubs, and a winding driveway that must stretch for miles. This was beyond anything she'd ever seen up close, even in her more successful days. Yes, that would be great. "Thank you," she managed, stumbling over her words. "I can reimburse you for the ride once I, get my finances in order." His face betrayed no emotion. "There's no need. Consider it a courtesy." Eva crossed her arms, uncertain how to respond. She was used to being self-sufficient, paying her own way. But with her finances in ruin, maybe she should learn to accept some kindness, even if it came from a near stranger. "Why don't you sit for a moment?" Liam suggested, gesturing to a leather sofa. You still look a bit pale. She complied, albeit awkwardly. He sat across from her in a matching armchair. A moment of silence passed as she tried to figure out something to say. Finally, curiosity got the best of her. So, you said you own that club? The one I stumbled out of. He nodded. Yes, it's a private establishment. Membership only, usually. But occasionally, we host open events. Last night must have been one of those. The staff let me know someone had passed out in the alley, so I went to check. I recognized you from the bar's security cameras, saw you were in rough shape, and decided to help. Thank you again, Eva whispered. You didn't have to do that. Most people would have called an ambulance or just left me there. He regarded her silently, his gaze intense. I'm not most people. And you, are you always so reckless with your drinking? His blunt question stung. She felt her cheeks heat in a mix of shame and defiance. No, actually. Last night was an exception. It was just a bad day. A very bad day, in fact. Care to elaborate? He asked, without a hint of nosiness, more like a genuine question. Eva hesitated. Should she confide in this stranger? Something about his calm presence and the fact that he'd rescued her made her want to open up. She sighed, gaze dropping to her hands. I signed my divorce papers yesterday. My ex-husband drained my business accounts, cheated on me, and left me in a financial mess. I guess I was trying to forget the worst day of my life. A flicker of empathy softened his eyes. I see. That explains your state. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not your fault, she replied quickly. But that's why Yeah. He gave a small nod. Then, he rose from his seat, walked over to a side table, and pressed a button on a sleek intercom device. Would you prepare some tea, please? He asked, presumably speaking to a staff member. Peppermint, if we have it. Moments later, a uniformed maid arrived with a teapot and 2 cups on a silver tray. Eva politely thanked her. Liam poured the tea, the aromatic steam calming Eva's roiling nerves. You should drink, he said, handing her a cup. It'll help your stomach. She took a small sip. The hot liquid soothed her scratchy throat. Her eyes met his. I'm not sure how to repay you for your kindness. He waved off her concern with a slight flick of his wrist. As I said, there's no need. It was the right thing to do. Silence settled again, but this time it was more comfortable. Eva savored the tea, noticing how tired she truly felt. The events of the last day weighed heavily on her, mixing with the slow, pounding echo of her hangover. When she finished her cup, she mustered a small smile. Thank you for everything, Liam. Really. I think I should head back now. He nodded, rising to stand in one fluid motion. I'll have my driver take you. Let's go. Eva followed him through the cavernous foyer, trying not to gape at the expensive artwork, the pristine marble floors, and the vaulted ceilings. As they reached the front door, she paused, turning to him. If you ever need anything, she trailed off, realizing she had nothing to offer. Well, thank you. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience. He inclined his head in a polite farewell. Take care of yourself, Eva. The front door swung open, and Eva stepped out onto the grand porch, blinking at the flood of sunlight. A sleek, black town car idled in the driveway. The chauffeur, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a crisp uniform, opened the passenger door for her. She slid in, sinking into leather seats that felt more luxurious than any ride she'd experienced. As the car rolled away, Eva glimpsed Liam standing at the top of the stairs, his hands in his pockets, observing her departure with an unreadable expression. She felt a shiver of something, intrigue, gratitude, maybe even attraction. But it was fleeting. She had her own mess to sort out, and the last thing she needed was more complications. Yet, as the imposing mansion receded from view, Eva couldn't shake the sensation that her life had just intersected with something bigger than she could imagine. A quiet voice in her mind whispered that meeting Liam Carter was no random twist of fate. With a soft sigh, she leaned back and closed her eyes, letting exhaustion take her for a while. Little did she know just how profoundly her life was about to change. 2 days later, Eva was back at her apartment, pacing across the worn carpet. She was trying to stave off a mounting sense of desperation. Bills were piling up, creditors kept calling, and job opportunities were sparse in her field, especially with the scandal that had tanked her reputation. Just as she was on the brink of tears, her phone buzzed. The screen showed a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then picked up. "Hello." A crisp, male voice replied, "Ms. Morgan, it's Liam Carter." Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected to hear from him again. "Oh, how did you get my number?" "I found it in your purse when you were unconscious," he replied. There was a brief pause, then, "I hope you don't mind me calling." "And no, not at all," she said, her mind racing. Why was he calling? She realized she wasn't sure how to address him. Did she call him Mr. Carter or just Liam? She decided to keep it casual. "How are you?" "I'm well." "I wanted to see if you're all right," Liam said, voice low and controlled. "Also, I have a proposition for you." "Proposition?" Eva echoed, her curiosity piqued. "Yes." "Would you mind coming to see me? We can discuss it in person." She hesitated, glancing around her dismal apartment. She had no pressing reason to say no. Her schedule was depressingly open. And the mention of a proposition was intriguing. "Sure," she said. "When and where?" "Now, if you're available. My driver can pick you up." It wasn't a request, it was more of a statement, like he expected her to comply. Oddly, Eva found herself saying yes without much reluctance. An hour later, the same black town car glided to a stop in front of her apartment building. She couldn't help feeling self-conscious as she walked down the cracked concrete steps. Her black trousers and plain blouse felt shabby against the opulence of the vehicle, but it was the best she could manage. Once again, she found herself speeding through winding roads toward Liam's estate. The scenery was just as breathtaking, though this time she was more alert, not hungover. Sunlight glinted off the manicured trees and the ornate fountains near the mansion's entrance. Liam met her in the grand foyer, dressed in a crisp white shirt and charcoal trousers. He inclined his head in greeting. "Eva, thank you for coming." She offered a tentative smile. "I was curious what you wanted to talk about." He motioned for her to follow him down a long corridor, the walls lined with minimalistic art. Eventually, they reached a spacious office. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a manicured garden and a small pond adorned with lily pads. The office itself was all glass, steel, and carefully arranged furniture, a reflection of Liam's modern taste. He directed her to a chair opposite a large wooden desk. Once seated, he leaned forward, folding his hands. "I'll get straight to the point. I need an assistant for a project I'm developing. Your background as an entrepreneur may be beneficial." Eva blinked, her pulse quickening. "You want to hire me? But you hardly know me. And you said it's a project." "Yes," he said, his gaze intent. "I'm starting a new charity initiative focused on empowering women in business, particularly those who faced setbacks or disadvantages. It's something I've been planning for a while, but I need someone with real-world experience to help shape the direction, to make it impactful." She felt a rush of emotions: hope, skepticism, confusion. "Why me, though? I mean, I've lost my business. I'm in debt. I'd think you'd want someone more successful." His eyes flickered with something akin to empathy. Sometimes the best insights come from those who've tasted failure. You understand what it's like to build, to lose, and to fight back. That's precisely the perspective I need. Eva couldn't deny a spark of excitement igniting within her. A chance to rebuild her shattered confidence and maybe help others in the process. But a seed of doubt remained. "That's very generous of you. But how does the pay work? What's the arrangement?" Liam slid a sheet of paper across the desk. "This is the salary range I'm offering. It's well above standard for a consultant. Additionally, if you help me get this off the ground and meet certain milestones, I'll arrange to clear your debts." Eva's eyes widened. She skimmed the figures. Her heart pounded. This was the kind of money she'd only dreamed of. But the debt-clearing offer was almost unbelievable. "That's incredibly generous. Almost too generous." His expression remained composed. I believe in backing talent. And you're talented, Eva, regardless of your current circumstances. The real question is whether you want this opportunity. She inhaled sharply, the weight of the moment sinking in. Accepting would mean stepping into the orbit of a man she barely knew, but who wielded immense resources. Refusing meant returning to a life of relentless creditors and minimal job prospects. It was a lifeline, but it could also be a trap. Why do you care so much, she found herself asking. About women in business, about someone like me. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but it's a little strange. He studied her for a moment, his gaze steady. Because I understand what it's like to have everything stacked against you. Growing up, I was a ward of the state, bounced around foster homes, never had a stable family. People helped me along the way, and that made all the difference. Now that I have resources, I want to do the same for others. She sensed there was more to his story, but he wasn't offering details. Still, his motive sounded genuine enough. Okay, she said, voice trembling slightly. I want to do it. I need to do it. Thank you for giving me this chance. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. We'll formalize everything. In the meantime, you can start by reviewing the conceptual plans I've drawn up. If you have any suggestions, I'm all ears. He opened a laptop on his desk, swiveled it toward her, and walked her through a slideshow. It detailed a proposed mentorship program, grants for female entrepreneurs, networking events, and a platform that would spotlight success stories. Eva's mind whirred, already brimming with ideas to streamline and personalize the initiative. They spent the next hour discussing potential project names, target demographics, and partnership opportunities. She found herself in her element, that familiar spark of creativity returning to her chest. Liam listened quietly, interjecting only when needed. His calm demeanor was a stark contrast to her ex-husband's flamboyant showiness. By the time they paused, her stomach rumbled. She glanced at the clock, nearly 2 p.m. Sorry, she murmured, embarrassed. He rose from his chair. Come, let's have lunch. We can continue discussing over a meal. They headed to a smaller dining room than the grand hall she'd glimpsed earlier, but it was still lavish by any standard. A table, already set with white porcelain plates and polished cutlery, greeted them. Liam spoke briefly to a staff member, and soon, plates of grilled salmon, vegetables, and fresh bread arrived. Eva tried to maintain her composure, feeling slightly overwhelmed by the luxury of it all. As they ate, they spoke more casually. She asked about his favorite places to travel. He admitted he didn't travel much for leisure, preferring to work. She told him about her old company and her passion for innovative fitness apps. He listened attentively, occasionally asking a question or making an understated joke that surprised her. Underneath his stoic facade, he had a subtle wit. She realized she was enjoying his company, despite the initial intimidation. When the meal ended, he offered to show her the property. She hesitated, not wanting to impose. But he insisted. They walked through a greenhouse filled with exotic plants and strolled along a courtyard with marble statues. The conversation moved to more personal topics. So, Liam said, hands in his pockets, your ex drained your business accounts. How do you feel about starting over? Eva exhaled, shoulders tensing. Honestly, I'm terrified. I don't trust easily anymore. I feel like I have to rebuild myself from scratch. Sometimes rebuilding is where real strength is found, he said, pausing by a small lily pond. We see our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, and learn to overcome them. She tilted her head, noticing a flicker of pain in his eyes. You talk like you know that process firsthand. He nodded slowly. I do. He didn't elaborate. Instead, he bent down to toss a small pebble into the pond, watching the ripples expand outward. Eva wanted to ask more, but something in his demeanor kept her from prying. Instead, she said softly, well, I appreciate the chance to rebuild. A faint smile curved his lips. You're welcome. Soon after, he handed her a folder with a contract. Skimming the contents, she saw it was all above board. Terms, payment schedule, milestones. No hidden traps. The line about clearing her debts was also clearly outlined as a performance-based bonus, contingent on successful project launch. "You're quite thorough," she remarked, trying to lighten the mood. "I like clarity," he said simply. She signed, a heady mix of relief and excitement coursing through her veins. As she handed the contract back, she felt a wave of gratitude. This was the lifeline she'd prayed for but never expected to find. "I'll get started right away," she promised, hugging the folder to her chest. "I won't let you down." "I have no doubt," he said. Yet, as she left that evening, driven once again by his chauffeur, a myriad of questions buzzed in her mind. Who was Liam Carter beneath that polished exterior? What had driven him to reach out to someone as broken as her? And was there more to this charity initiative than met the eye? Despite the unknowns, for the first time since her divorce, Eva felt a flicker of hope. She had a new mission, a new purpose, and a new ally. Little did she know how closely their fates would become entangled in the days to come. Over the next week, Eva threw herself into the charity project like her life depended on it, because, in many ways, it did. She was determined to prove her worth to Liam, to silence the nagging doubt in her mind that told her she was a failure. Every morning, she arrived at Liam's estate precisely at 8 a.m. A makeshift office had been set up for her in a sunlit corner room overlooking the gardens. The same staff who once seemed so intimidating now greeted her with polite smiles. She spent her days poring over business proposals, drafting marketing strategies, and networking with potential partners for the initiative. One morning, she was typing away on her laptop when Liam entered. He carried a coffee mug and a stack of documents. Without preamble, he handed her the papers. "Proposals from 3 PR firms. We need media coverage for the launch, especially if we want to reach as many aspiring female entrepreneurs as possible." Eva flipped through them, noting budgets, timelines, and portfolios. She sipped her own coffee. It had become a habit to keep a steaming mug by her side at all times. "I think the second firm has the best track record for social impact campaigns," she said, tapping the page. "They worked on a similar project for a non-profit last year and got excellent results." Liam inclined his head. "Agreed. Set up a meeting with them tomorrow." Their synergy was oddly seamless. He had a knack for quiet observation and strategic thinking, while she excelled in creative and personal outreach. As they worked side by side, she began to see layers of his personality. He was precise in his words, methodical in his actions, and deeply private. Yet, every so often, he'd offer a subtle smile or a thoughtful comment that made her realize he was paying close attention, not just to the work, but to her. At lunch, they often ate together, discussing the project. One such afternoon, as they were going over a list of potential corporate sponsors, he glanced at her with a hint of curiosity. "I'm impressed with your resilience. Many people in your position would still be licking their wounds." She shrugged. "Not much choice, is there? I can't let my ex-husband's betrayal define me. I'd rather fight back than wallow." Liam nodded, stirring his iced tea. "I understand." Eva studied him for a moment, debating whether to press for more details about his past. Deciding to ease into it, she asked casually, "Have you always been this successful? I know you mentioned foster homes, but I don't know how you managed to build all this." A shadow flickered across his eyes. "Let's just say I started from nothing. I learned early on that if I wanted to survive, let alone succeed, I had to rely on my own wits. And a few mentors helped along the way." She sensed that was all he was comfortable sharing, so she didn't push. They returned to discussing the best strategies for approaching corporate donors. Later that afternoon, Eva was reviewing a spreadsheet of potential grant recipients when her phone buzzed. She picked it up, seeing an unknown number. On instinct, she answered. "Eva," came a sneering voice that made her blood run cold. "Alex." She nearly dropped the phone. "What do you want?" she snapped, stepping away from the desk so Liam wouldn't overhear. "Is that how you greet your ex-husband?" he mocked. "Come on, Evie, don't be so hostile." "Don't call me that," she hissed. "We're divorced, remember?" There was a pause, then a laugh that made her skin crawl. "I need to see you. Things haven't been so good for me lately. Maybe we can talk about how you can help me." Eva laughed dryly, a surge of bitterness coursing through her. "Help you? You must be joking." You stole from me, cheated on me, and left me in financial ruin. Why would I help you? That's the thing, he said, voice laced with desperation. I'm in some trouble, and I need money. I know you're working with that billionaire now, Liam Carter, right? I've heard things. You must have some connections. A small favor, just a loan. I owe you nothing, she spat. Don't call me again. She ended the call, hands trembling. Liam must have sensed her agitation because he looked up from his laptop. Everything okay? Eva forced a tight smile. Fine, she lied. Just an annoying spam call. She returned to her desk, but her composure was frayed. 1,000 thoughts churned in her head. Did Alex really think she'd bail him out after everything he'd done? She resolved to ignore him, but a gnawing worry lingered. Alex was manipulative and vindictive. If he was desperate, he might resort to anything. By evening, Eva could no longer focus. She gathered her things and told Liam she'd wrap up the work from home. He nodded, eyes flicking over her with concern. Sure you're all right? She mustered a more convincing smile. I'm fine, just tired. See you tomorrow. That night, in her tiny apartment, she tried to drown out Alex's voice by reviewing a new batch of program applications. But sleep was elusive. She tossed and turned, memories of her failed marriage melding with anxiety about the future. If she fell now, she'd lose everything. She needed to stay strong. The next morning, she arrived at the estate even earlier than usual, hoping to channel her nervous energy into productivity. As she settled into her workspace, Liam appeared in the doorway. Morning, he said, his voice softer than usual. I have something to discuss with you. Her stomach fluttered. Sure. What's up? He gestured for her to follow him. They made their way to a smaller, wood-paneled study, lined with shelves of leather-bound books. Closing the door behind them, he turned to her, his gaze unreadable. I have another proposition for you, one that goes beyond the scope of the charity project, he began. But it's intertwined. Eva's curiosity piqued. All right. Let's hear it. He took a measured breath, as if carefully choosing his words. As you know, the media can be very influential. We'll need coverage to make this initiative impactful. Part of that coverage will focus on the people driving the project. You, in particular, are a great story. Someone who's experienced personal betrayal and financial ruin, now rising like a phoenix. Eva blinked, not entirely comfortable being labeled a sob story but understanding his logic. I guess I see where you're going. He paced slowly, his polished shoes making soft thuds on the carpet. I want to position you not only as the project lead but as a partner in this initiative. We'll publicly announce that you're my associate, for lack of a better term. Her brow furrowed. Associate in what sense? His gaze locked with hers. In every sense that matters to the media. Think of it as a staged partnership. They love a narrative. Billionaire invests in bright, determined entrepreneur. It'll give us the traction we need for the cause. And it'll help your reputation immensely. Eva's mind whirled. You mean, you want us to pretend we're business partners? Or something else? Potentially more, he said, carefully. They'll assume we're involved romantically if we appear together at events, dinners, and so on. If you're comfortable with it, we can let those rumors run their course, because it will amplify the story. It might be beneficial for both of us. Her mouth went dry. That's quite a proposition. Are you sure you want that kind of speculation? He shrugged with calculated indifference. I'm used to speculation. But in this case, I'm strategically using it. Investors and media outlets are drawn to power couples, real or perceived. It could be the catalyst that takes our charity initiative from a small operation to a nationwide movement. Eva's mind darted to her messy personal life, her battered emotional state. Could she handle the scrutiny of playing the role of a billionaire's partner? I'm not sure. It feels disingenuous. He inclined his head. It does. But think of the greater good. The exposure, the funds we can raise, the entrepreneurs we can help. I'm not saying we'd lie outright. We'd let the media assume what they will. Our focus remains the charity. But if you're uncomfortable, I won't push." She swallowed hard, her heart pounding. It was a massive leap from where she was. But the logic was irrefutable. Public interest could fuel donations and partnerships. And for her personally, being seen as Liam Carter's ally, or more, could open doors for her future. "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice strained. He gave a small nod. "Take your time. We can work out the details. For now, we have our first press event next week at the Four Seasons conference room. We'll make the official announcement about the initiative. If you decide to proceed, we'll step on stage together and present ourselves as a unified front." Eva's pulse throbbed in her ears. She couldn't help but wonder if any part of Liam's proposition was motivated by genuine interest, or if it was purely a calculated move. Before she could sort out her tangled thoughts, he opened a folder on the desk, drawing her attention to the bullet points of the press release. "Regardless of your decision, I value your input," he said softly. "You've done excellent work here." She nodded, forcing a smile, then gathered the documents to return to her office. Her mind was on overdrive. Was she really considering playing the role of Liam's partner? It was a path fraught with potential pitfalls. Yet, the payoff could be tremendous. Not just for the charity, but for her own standing in the business world. As she sank into her chair, she realized she might be forging a bond with a man who was both her benefactor and her biggest mystery. Where it would lead, she didn't know. But one thing was certain, she was already in too deep to turn back now. Days flew by in a whirlwind of preparation for the official launch event. Eva dove headfirst into scheduling press invitations, coordinating with the PR firm, finalizing venue details, and crafting speeches. She barely slept, operating on sheer adrenaline and determination. Amid the chaos, she and Liam grew closer, professionally, at least. They spent long hours hammering out details, occasionally working late into the night in the estate's conference room. One evening, as the clock neared midnight, she caught him studying her intently during a break. "You look tired," he remarked softly, setting down a coffee mug. "We can pick this up tomorrow." Eva rubbed her temples. "I want everything to be perfect. We're unveiling this to the world. I can't afford any mistakes." His gaze softened for a split second. "Mistakes are inevitable. What matters is how we handle them." She managed a weak smile. "Right." Though they didn't talk about the staged partnership again, Eva felt the undercurrent of that potential arrangement throbbing beneath their interactions. She was still on the fence. A part of her rebelled against any notion of subterfuge, while another part recognized how beneficial it could be. The night before the launch, she finally allowed herself a few hours of sleep. In the morning, she woke to a flurry of messages from the PR team. Final interviews, last-minute changes to the schedule, and a new wave of RSVPs, including some high-profile tech journalists. Her pulse quickened. This was it. The biggest chance she'd had in ages to restore her name and prove she wasn't just some business tragedy. Arriving at the Four Seasons, Eva gaped at the lavish setup. The hotel's conference ballroom was outfitted with a stage, large screens displaying the new initiative's logo, and rows of chairs for media and potential investors. Tall banners showed images of determined women in various professional settings, emblazoned with the tagline, "Rise, Empower, Thrive." She felt a swell of pride mixed with jitters. This was her brainchild, molded with Liam's resources. Today, it would stand or fall in the court of public opinion. Backstage, she found Liam speaking with a cluster of reporters. He wore a tailored navy suit, exuding quiet confidence. As she approached, he glanced over and gave a subtle nod. The reporters turned to look at her, cameras and microphones poised. Instantly, Eva felt a surge of nerves. One reporter stepped forward. "Ms. Morgan, can we get a comment on your role in this initiative?" Taking a breath, Eva summoned the poised entrepreneur she once was. "I'm honored to lead this project. We aim to provide mentorship, funding, and networking opportunities for women who have faced setbacks in business. It's about making sure no one goes unnoticed or unsupported the way I once did." Her voice didn't waver, and the reporters scribbled notes, some filming her. She caught Liam's approving look, which steadied her. Soon, it was time for the opening remarks. Liam took the stage first, delivering a concise yet powerful speech about the importance of investing in female entrepreneurs. He called it a moral imperative and a smart business strategy, praising Eva's visionary input. When she stepped up to the podium, the audience hushed. She cleared her throat. "I know what it's like to lose everything you worked for. I've been there, and I wouldn't wish that feeling of helplessness on anyone. That's why this initiative speaks to me on a personal level. We're committed to turning adversity into opportunity. Because each of us has the power to rise, if only given the right tools and a hand to hold." Thunderous applause erupted. Cameras flashed. She saw recognition and respect in the faces of the crowd. For the first time in months, she felt validated. No longer defined by her failed marriage, she was shaping a new narrative, one in which she was capable, determined, and unstoppable. After the speeches, Eva and Liam mingled with the attendees. The energy in the room was electric. High-profile investors expressed interest in supporting the cause, journalists requested interviews, and a few well-known philanthropists promised their backing. Midway through the event, a woman approached Eva, tall, impeccably dressed, with sharp cheekbones. "Eva Morgan? I'm Jessica Wu from TechLink Weekly. Could I get a quick word? Your story is fascinating." "Sure," Eva said, stepping to the side with her. Jessica's camera crew readied themselves. "I just want to confirm, your divorce and the scandal with your ex-husband left you in dire straits. And now, in under a month, you're co-leading a major charitable initiative with the backing of Liam Carter. How did that come about?" Eva took a breath. "Mr. Carter recognized my experience, both successes and failures, and believed I could channel that into something positive. He's been incredibly supportive in helping me refocus my entrepreneurial spirit on this initiative." Jessica nodded, then pressed further, eyes gleaming. "And rumor has it you two are more than just business associates. Care to comment on that?" Eva's heart fluttered. This was exactly the scenario Liam had predicted. She met Jessica's gaze head-on, remembering the plan they'd discussed. "We work very closely," she said diplomatically. "His support goes beyond a simple business arrangement. But our main focus right now is helping women who need it." Jessica's eyebrows rose suggestively. "Interesting. I see. Thank you, Ms. Morgan." When Jessica moved on to interview someone else, Eva let out a shaky breath. She spotted Liam across the room, speaking to an older couple. Their gazes met. He offered a faint smile and a slight nod, as if to say well done. At the end of the evening, the entire event was deemed a roaring success. Donations and pledges poured in. The media coverage was overwhelmingly positive, with headlines like "Eva Morgan's Redemption Arc," from divorce scandal to empowering women nationwide, popping up on social media within hours. Back at the mansion later that night, Liam and Eva debriefed in the private study. He poured them each a glass of sparkling water. "You handled that reporter's question well," he said, clinking glasses with her. She smiled, both relieved and exhilarated. "I wasn't sure how to answer. I didn't want to deny or confirm, so I just left it hanging." He shrugged. "That's enough for them to speculate. Let them spin their stories." They exchanged a charged look, awareness crackling in the air. Eva quickly looked away, setting her glass on the table. "I can't believe how well it all went. We already have meetings lined up with major sponsors." Liam nodded. "Yes. And your presence was key. They resonate with your story." She gave him a grateful look, heart pounding. "Thank you for taking a chance on me, Liam." A flicker of a smile touched his lips. "You've proven my instincts right." In that moment, Eva felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude and something else, an undeniable pull toward him. She couldn't label it love, not yet, but it was more than mere gratitude. A warmth blossomed in her chest. Before either of them could act on that tension, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, expression darkening. "I have to take this," he said. She nodded, stepping out of the study to give him privacy. She could hear his muffled voice, tense and clipped, as though he was arguing with someone. Curious but respectful, she moved farther down the corridor, letting her thoughts drift. Tonight had been a triumph, a turning point that made her believe in the possibility of a new life, one that wasn't overshadowed by Alex's betrayal. But something about Liam's hushed conversation gave her pause. She realized she knew so little about him, despite their growing closeness. Secrets lingered behind his polished facade. She wondered if their synergy was just a business match or something deeper, something that might one day lead them to reveal the darkest corners of their pasts to each other. For now, though, she allowed herself to savor the small victory of the day. She was rising, step by step, reclaiming her identity. And Liam Carter, mysterious, guarded, yet undeniably influential, was at her side, whether as a benefactor, a partner, or perhaps something more. In the stillness of the grand hallway, Eva Morgan allowed herself a glimmer of hope that this was only the beginning of a far more extraordinary journey. Weeks turned into a smooth cadence of meetings, networking events, and planning sessions. Eva thrived in the structured whirlwind, her confidence growing with each successful milestone. The charity's name, Rise and Reclaim, was on everyone's lips, generating buzz in business and philanthropic circles alike. During this time, she and Liam spent countless hours together, both in public and behind the scenes. They developed an unspoken rhythm. He provided strategic direction and financial backing. She infused creativity, passion, and her personal touch into every aspect of the initiative. Their synergy was undeniable, and the media ate it up. Photos of them attending galas, workshops, and conferences circulated online. Speculation about their relationship status only intensified. One crisp autumn evening, they attended a fundraiser at a luxury rooftop venue downtown. The skyline sparkled, and the night air carried a slight chill. Eva wore a floor-length emerald gown, while Liam looked sharp in a tailored black tux. They mingled with donors, fielding questions about the charity. At one point, they found themselves alone near the edge of the terrace, city lights twinkling below. Eva leaned on the railing, her breath forming a small plume of vapor. "This place is incredible," she remarked, gazing at the skyline. Liam stood close to her, the warmth of his body contrasting the cool air. "So are you," he said quietly. She turned to him, heart skipping a beat. His eyes, reflecting the ambient light, revealed a softness she rarely saw. Something in his demeanor told her this wasn't a calculated line for public show. This was genuine. They locked eyes, the world momentarily fading away. Her pulse pounded in her ears as he lifted a hand, hesitated, then brushed a stray curl from her forehead. The simple gesture sent a jolt of electricity through her. "Liam," she began, not sure what she wanted to say. He leaned in, the distance between them shrinking to mere inches. She could feel his breath, smell the faint hint of his cologne. She closed her eyes, anticipating a kiss, but at the last second, a voice shattered the moment. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Morgan," called one of the event organizers. "We have a group of donors waiting to speak with you." They both stepped back, tension dissolving like a popped bubble. Liam cleared his throat, face unreadable once more. "Yes, of course," he said, guiding Eva away from the railing. Her cheeks flushed, she tried to focus on the donors, but her mind was elsewhere. Something had almost happened between them, a spark, a connection beyond the charade they sometimes played for cameras. She wondered if he felt it too. Later that night, they returned to the estate, both silent in the car ride. When they arrived, Liam walked her to the front door. The moon cast silver beams across the driveway. Eva paused at the threshold, fiddling with the straps of her purse. "About earlier, on the terrace." He met her gaze, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "Yes." She took a steadying breath. "Are we crossing a line between business and personal?" His gray eyes flickered with an emotion she couldn't place. "Perhaps. But lines aren't always so distinct. You've been through a lot, Eva. I don't want to rush you into anything." She bit her lip. "I appreciate that. It's just, I don't know if I'm ready, but I also can't deny I feel something." A tense pause, laden with possibilities. Then Liam stepped closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "We have time," he said softly. "There's no hurry." She nodded, relieved yet wanting more. Ultimately, she said goodnight, returning to her apartment with her heart in turmoil. This was dangerous territory. She was just recovering from one toxic relationship. Could she handle feelings for a man so different yet equally intense? In the subsequent days, the unspoken tension simmered. They spent late nights preparing proposals for nationwide expansion of Rise and Reclaim, sometimes working in Liam's study until their eyelids grew heavy. Conversation flowed easily between them, shifting from project details to personal anecdotes, funny childhood stories, favorite books, hidden hobbies. One evening, Eva mustered the courage to ask about his childhood. "You mentioned foster care. Was it difficult?" Liam's expression darkened, but he didn't turn her away. "It wasn't easy," he admitted. "I learned early to trust few people. I was also betrayed once, by someone I thought was a friend." He paused, jaw tightening. She sensed he was skirting something painful. "I'm sorry." He shrugged, eyes distant. "It's the past. It drove me to succeed, to ensure I'd never be vulnerable again." Eva tentatively reached for his hand, which rested on the desk. "But building walls can be lonely." He turned his hand to lace fingers with hers. "Yes, it can be. Maybe I'm realizing that now." A heavy silence filled the room, thick with meaning. Their hands stayed entwined for a moment longer before they both let go, returning to work with hearts pounding in unison. Just when it seemed everything was finally settling into a hopeful pattern, life threw a curveball. One afternoon, Eva was scrolling through social media mentions of Rise and Reclaim when she stumbled upon a scandalous tabloid article. The headline blared, "Eva Morgan's secret bankruptcy. Is Liam Carter's latest investment a fool's errand?" Her stomach twisted. The article delved into details of her divorce, her drained business accounts, and insinuated that she was a gold digger latching onto Liam's wealth. Though some of the details were public record, the tone was vicious, painting her as manipulative and untrustworthy. She felt fury rise in her throat. The tabloids loved a juicy story, but this was particularly cruel. Why would they resurface these details now, just as she was building a new path? Then her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Unknown. Like the article? "I can release more if you don't help me out." A cold chill washed over her. She typed back cautiously. "Eva, who is this?" "Unknown, your ex. I said I needed money, remember? Now everyone knows your dirty laundry. Next time, it'll be worse. Pay up or watch your precious new life crumble." Her hands shook. Alex was behind this. Of course he was. The man she once loved was now blackmailing her, threatening to sabotage everything unless she paid. But she had no resources. Her finances were still recovering, and any extra money she made went toward living expenses. Desperate, she considered the ramifications. If these articles continued, they could undermine the charity, scare away donors, and tarnish Liam's name by association. She couldn't let that happen. But how could she appease Alex? Later that day, she confronted Liam in his study, her voice trembling. "Alex is blackmailing me, threatening to leak more damaging stories if I don't give him money." Liam's eyes hardened. "How much does he want?" "50,000, Eva whispered, tears burning. "I don't have that. I don't even know if I should pay. What if he just keeps demanding more?" Liam's jaw clenched. "Let me handle this." She grabbed his arm. "No. I don't want to drag you into my mess. This is my problem." He placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Eva, he's targeting you because he thinks you're vulnerable. If we let him get away with this, he'll only continue. We can't have that overshadowing the charity. Let me use my resources to shut him down legally." She wavered, the tension in her chest unbearable. He could leak more stories in the meantime. Ruin everything. Liam's voice dropped. "We'll fight back. My legal team can handle the tabloids, and I can discredit any falsehoods. I won't let him harm you." Feeling the weight of his assurance, Eva nodded, tears slipping free. "Okay, thank you." That same day, Liam's top-notch lawyers fired off cease and desist letters to every outlet that published false claims, citing libel. They also threatened Alex with legal action for harassment and blackmail. The firm even compiled a dossier of evidence against him, which Liam privately handed to a contact in law enforcement. Despite the swift action, The emotional toll on Eva was heavy. Negative whispers lingered, and the stress threatened to derail her. She found herself snapping at colleagues and losing focus during strategy sessions. One night, after a grueling day of damage control, Liam found her slumped in a chair in the mansion's library. She was staring blankly at a shelf of old classics, tears brimming in her eyes. He approached quietly and laid a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Hey," he murmured. "We're going to get through this." She looked up, her voice cracked. "I'm trying so hard, Liam, but it feels like Alex won't stop until I'm completely destroyed." A flicker of rage crossed Liam's face. He knelt beside her, meeting her gaze. "He's desperate. Desperate people lash out. But they also make mistakes. We'll catch him." Eva sniffled, wiping her cheeks. "I'm just tired of fighting. I thought once I left him, I'd be free." His features softened. "Freedom comes with confronting our pasts. You're stronger than you realize." She exhaled, leaning into his quiet strength. They stayed like that for a long moment, hearts beating in a shared rhythm of empathy and unspoken affection. In that solitude, the library's warm lamplight bathing them in a golden glow, Eva felt safe for the first time since the tabloid attack. Their embrace ended only when a staff member timidly announced dinner was ready. Reluctantly, they parted, stepping back into the harsh reality of the ongoing battle with Alex. But the solace they shared in that brief interlude ignited something deeper than either of them was ready to admit aloud. In the ensuing weeks, Eva discovered a newfound determination within herself. The tabloid fiasco had rattled her, but it also galvanized her resolve to break free from Alex's manipulation once and for all. Under Liam's guidance, she compiled every shred of evidence of Alex's wrongdoing, from their shared bank records proving the siphoning of funds to text messages revealing his infidelity. Simultaneously, Liam's legal team worked diligently to counter every false narrative about Eva. They fed the media positive stories about Rise and Reclaim's impact on women's businesses, overshadowing the negative press. Meanwhile, the police began investigating Alex for blackmail. One afternoon, the tension snapped when Eva received a call from a detective handling her case. "We have enough to bring him in for questioning," the detective informed her. "Would you be willing to speak on the record about his attempts to extort money from you?" "Yes," Eva replied, voice firm. "I won't be afraid of him anymore." That evening, a local news station broke the story of Alex's alleged blackmail scheme. The public sympathy shifted drastically in Eva's favor, painting her as a victim of ongoing harassment. Overnight, donations to Rise and Reclaim surged, as people rallied behind her. Buoyed by this wave of support, Eva decided it was time to address the situation head-on, once and for all. She arranged a press conference outside a community center that Rise and Reclaim had just renovated. With cameras rolling, she stood at a podium, determined to set the record straight. "I've been silent for too long," she began, voice steady. "Yes, I went through a painful divorce. Yes, my ex-husband took advantage of me financially. But his attempts to blackmail and defame me won't succeed. Not because of my connections or wealth, but because the truth is on my side. To anyone else facing a similar struggle, don't stay silent. Speak up. Fight for your story." Cheers and applause echoed from the crowd, punctuated by camera shutters clicking. Journalists fired off questions about Alex's arrest warrant, her personal journey, and the future of Rise and Reclaim. She answered calmly, no longer haunted by the fear that had once loomed over her every move. Suddenly, a voice shouted from the back of the crowd, "What about your relationship with Liam Carter? Is he just your sugar daddy?" Eva stiffened, scanning the throng for the heckler. Her eyes flitted across mocking faces until she found the source, a smug tabloid reporter. Without hesitation, she squared her shoulders. "Liam Carter is my business partner, my collaborator in this initiative. He's invested in me, yes, but in my capabilities, my experience, and our shared vision. I'm no one's pawn, and if you'd done real journalism, you'd see the countless women entrepreneurs we're already helping." The reporter tried to retort, but the wave of public support drowned him out. Eva stepped off the podium, her heart pounding with adrenaline and pride. She felt free, truly free, from Alex's shadow. Liam appeared at her side, gently guiding her away from the reporters. "That was brave," he said quietly. She exhaled, tears of relief threatening to spill. "I needed to say it." He nodded, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you." In the following days, news broke of Alex's arrest. He'd been picked up in another state, caught trying to cross the border with forged documents. The story, splashed across local media, ignited a storm of public outrage at his actions and further bolstered sympathy for Eva. The final straw came when Alex's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, asking Eva to drop charges in exchange for a public apology. She refused, letting the legal process run its course. She no longer felt mercy for a man who sought to ruin her life, even after their marriage ended. With Alex finally out of the picture, Eva felt like a massive weight had been lifted. The media had her back, supporters of Rise and Reclaim rallied behind her, and best of all, she no longer had to watch every step in fear of sabotage. One evening, while reviewing reports in the estate study, Liam approached with a satisfied glint in his eyes. "He's been formally charged with blackmail, among other offenses. The case will likely go to trial, but either way, he won't be in a position to harm you again." She set down the file she was reading. "Thank you for everything. For your legal team, your support, for believing me when no one else would." His gaze was intense. "You don't have to thank me. You did the hard work, standing up to him in public. That takes real courage." Eva swallowed, warmth spreading in her chest. Their eyes locked, electricity igniting between them again. This time, there was no sudden interruption. No one to break the spell. Liam took a step closer, voice low. "Eva, I can't keep denying how I feel." Her heart hammered. "Neither can I." A surge of emotion propelled them forward. When their lips finally met, it was tender at first, uncertain, a delicate exploration. Then it deepened, fueled by weeks of unspoken desire. She clung to him, her hands fisting in the fabric of his shirt. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer as though she might slip away. Time blurred. They only broke apart when the need for air forced them. She looked up into his eyes, her breath ragged, her heart soaring. He spoke against her lips, voice shaking slightly. "I've wanted this for a while." She smiled, tears of relief and happiness brimming. "Me too." In that stolen moment of passion, overshadowed by the knowledge of all they'd overcome, Eva knew her life had finally turned a corner. No longer a victim, no longer defined by betrayal, she was stepping into a future she was shaping with her own hands. And in Liam Carter, she had found a partner willing to walk beside her, not above or in front of her, but as an equal. The next few months felt surreal, as though Eva was living someone else's fairy tale. Yet, it wasn't just a fantasy. She worked hard every day, and so did Liam. Rise and Reclaim expanded from a local initiative to a nationwide program. Through a rigorous application process, women entrepreneurs received grants, mentorship, and access to investor networks. Each success story, every new product launch, every thriving small business, became a testament to the program's impact. Meanwhile, Eva and Liam navigated their blossoming relationship. It wasn't without challenges. He was often guarded, prone to solitary moods, a habit formed from years of relying on himself. She was still sensitive about her past, occasionally haunted by the old scars Alex left behind. But they found solace in each other's arms, learning to compromise and communicate, to trust despite their individual fears. One morning, Eva woke in Liam's mansion, her new home now. They had taken the step of moving in together, carefully blending their lives while maintaining mutual independence. She sat up in the giant bed, sunlight streaming through the tall windows. The memory of last night's gala fluttered through her mind, photos of her and Liam on the red carpet, followed by an intimate dinner where they laughed, chatted about future plans, and stole lingering kisses between bites. A gentle knock sounded at the door. "Come in," she called, voice still groggy. Liam peeked in, holding a breakfast tray with fresh orange juice, toast, and scrambled eggs. "You were up late. I figured you might want something to eat before the calls start." She smiled, feeling warmth spread through her. "You didn't have to do that." He set the tray on the bedside table, then leaned in to kiss her forehead. "I wanted to. Besides, I have to spoil the star of Rise and Reclaim." She rolled her eyes playfully. I'm hardly the star. It's about the women we're helping. A proud glint shone in his eyes. And yet, you've become a symbol for resilience. The media loves you. The entrepreneurs you mentor adore you. And, well, I happen to love you, too. Her heart melted at his admission, softly spoken but brimming with sincerity. I love you as well, she whispered. They'd exchanged those words in private before, but each time felt as momentous as the first. They ate breakfast together, discussing the day's schedule. Later, Eva had a video conference with a group of budding entrepreneurs in another state, while Liam had meetings with potential international investors. After breakfast, she dressed in a chic, navy blazer and matching slacks, then set up in the home office for her calls. With practiced eloquence, she guided the entrepreneurs through market validation strategies, budgeting tips, and networking best practices. She could see the spark of hope in their eyes, even through the webcam. After ending the call, she leaned back in her chair, satisfaction filling her. Her phone buzzed, a text from a friend linking to a news article, Eva Morgan, from divorcee to industry pioneer. The piece praised her leadership role in Rise and Reclaim, highlighting the lives changed by the initiative. Eva felt tears prick at her eyes. She had come so far. The woman who had once signed divorce papers in defeat was now recognized for uplifting others. She recalled the swirl of heartbreak, betrayal, and despair that drove her to get drunk that fateful night. If she hadn't stumbled out of that bar, if Liam Carter hadn't found her, how different would her life be? She decided to reward herself with a walk through the estate gardens. The air was crisp, scented with freshly cut grass. Autumn leaves covered the ground in a patchwork of red, orange, and gold. She meandered along a winding path, remembering her first day here, the hangover, the overwhelming opulence, and the uncertainty of her future. Now, this place felt like a sanctuary. The staff greeted her warmly, as though she were family. She passed the lily pond where she had once seen Liam toss a pebble, his secrets hidden in the ripples. A sense of peace settled over her. Rounding a corner, she nearly bumped into Liam, who was immersed in a phone call. He ended it abruptly, his face lighting up when he saw her. Hey. Thought you were busy with calls. Just finished, she said, smiling. Wanted some fresh air. He reached into his jacket pocket. I was just about to look for you. I have something to give you. Her heart fluttered. Oh. He produced a small velvet box, the kind that could only mean one thing. Her eyes went wide, a rush of excitement, fear, and joy flooding her system. Liam? He opened it to reveal a ring, a delicate band adorned with a single shimmering diamond. His usually calm demeanor cracked, revealing vulnerability in his eyes. Eva, we've both been through a lot, pain, betrayal, doubt. But we've also found hope and built something meaningful together. I want to keep building that life with you. Tears blurred her vision. Are you proposing? He exhaled, a small smile forming. Yes. But this time, it won't be about merging finances or social expectations. It'll be about two people who've learned to trust and support each other. Two equals ready to face whatever comes next. Eva's throat constricted. She remembered her disastrous first marriage, how it began with excitement but ended in devastation. Yet, looking at Liam, she saw sincerity, partnership, and a deep love forged in adversity. She sniffled, tears trailing down her cheeks. Yes, she managed, voice trembling with emotion. Yes, Liam Carter. I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she launched herself into his arms, laughter and sobs mingling. They stood there in the garden, surrounded by fallen leaves and the gentle rustle of the wind, sealing a promise that transcended their pasts. A few months later, Eva Morgan, soon to be Eva Carter, stood at the podium of a grand ballroom. This time, it wasn't for a press launch or a fundraiser. It was her wedding reception. The room was filled with friends, colleagues, and beneficiaries of Rise and Reclaim. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, and a string quartet played softly in the background. Liam stood beside her, hand wrapped around her waist, as she addressed the crowd. I can't express how grateful I am for this moment, for all of you who supported us. To the women in Rise and Reclaim, you inspire me daily. Thank you for reminding me that setbacks don't define us, our determination and spirit do. She paused, turning to Liam, who watched her with unabashed admiration. And to Liam, who saw potential in me even when I couldn't see it in myself. I never thought I'd find love in a place of brokenness, but you showed me it was possible. A tear slipped down her cheek. Liam squeezed her hand, whispering, I love you. The crowd erupted in applause, some even wiping tears. Cameras flashed, immortalizing the moment. But unlike that first wave of intrusive media attention months ago, these cameras were capturing hope, triumph, and genuine joy. After the toasts, Eva and Liam shared their first dance as husband and wife. The music swelled, and she rested her head on his shoulder, content in the knowledge that she had transformed her life from tragedy to triumph. They spun slowly on the dance floor, the world falling away. She caught sight of a few of their charity's beneficiaries smiling through tears of gratitude. She thought of Alex, now just a bitter memory, facing the consequences of his own actions. She thought of her once failing bank account, now replenished not just by Liam's generosity but by her own successful ventures. And above all, she thought of the night she'd stumbled out of a bar, desperate to forget her pain, only to awaken in a mansion that became the foundation for a second chance. A single moment of kindness had altered her destiny. With love, determination, and faith in herself, Eva Morgan had risen from the ashes, proving that life's darkest hours could indeed lead to extraordinary new beginnings. The end. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go ahead and generously hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales like this. We'd love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next story.